right, buddy.
Let's do it.
I got a snow day.
You got another snow day.
Yeah.
I'm in Nashville. It's gloomy, but it's I don't know, 40s, 50s. It's gonna get colder, but yeah, it's gloomy. They had a bunch of wind here, but it's not snowing, and I'll take it. It is March the 10th, the year 2023. Welcome aboard, everybody. You listen to the Crushing Iron podcast. This is episode 665.
Yeah, all day.
All day, every day. I brought the full setup with me so we could deliver our high quality listening experience to our beloved audience. I want to say a good hello and a welcome to for those of you that are tuning in for the first time. Welcome. We appreciate you giving us your time. We know you have quite a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general terms of variables. We appreciate you tuning in today. We cover it all. We do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We do race recaps and also a lot of race previews that will be starting up here pretty quickly. For the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through in life, not just as human beings, but also as coaches and athletes ourselves. We also talk frequently about what our own athletes are going through. Mike and I work with a wide range of athletes all across the globe, from beginner level triathletes looking at their very first 5K or sprint triathlon, all the way up through elite level amateurs trying to get back to world championships, and everyone in between from all over the globe. And we use the feedback loop we have with them in training peaks, emails, text messages, and the like to drive the discussion of the day. We often utilize our Facebook group as well. You can search that, Crushing Iron Group. Answer multiple question, we let you right in. Awesome people, fantastic community, amazing resource. In a sport that is oftentimes confusing and way overcomplicated, it is a solid foundational group to answer your questions. Wide range of experience levels, again, from Ironman world champions, everything trickling all the way down to those of us and those of you who have never even done it, but are trying to find more information and either get the courage or the confidence or just the adequate level of information to do the sport. So participate in that. Don't be a lurker. Ask a question and get great feedback, and we'll go in there about once a month, do a little bit of a Q&A. And take the pulse of the community, do our best to answer the questions for our amazing audience and followers. But that's it. We don't do sponsors. We do not do ads, but we do have one agenda, and that's to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Yeah, and one of the ways we're doing that is giving away free training plans to sprint and Olympics people, for beginners mostly, on the website, c26triathlon.com. You go on there and kind of purchase it for free, and then I'll take care of it. But I have an announcement about that. I'm working on getting mentors. Well, it's not really, but I just want people to hear. I've emailed about this, but sometimes people don't read emails. And I'm working on getting everybody hooked up with a mentor if you're doing a sprint now, because we had so much response, dude. Like you said, we've filled up a whole sprint race probably on our own with that.
Oh, yeah.
So we're helping to build the sport. That's one of our goals. And, we had a lot of our athletes volunteer for mentors, and it's kind of running a little thin because we had so many people, but I'm working on it. So just be patient, and it is for free. So hang tight.
Hang tight. And use it and get it, and make sure you got training peaks before you load it up. But we had definitely filled up. I mean, most races, like, unfortunately these days, are like 200 or less. We're
right around
before we get into the topic today, and one of my usual Nashville rants while I'm here hanging out for spring break with our moms, so you can catch up with us, see family, work, maybe go to a few Preds games, and parent as little as possible for the week. Before I get into that, I saw on the injury report this morning on the bottom line on ESPN that you may have suffered a snow shoveling injury.
That's your Nashville rant?
No, my Nashville rant is this, and it's just generally speaking, and I'd say this all the time, but it is probably one of my biggest pet peeves. Period.
Mm-hmm.
I went for a run this morning. My mom, which is nuts, doesn't own a coffee maker. So, I mean, she doesn't own like a legit coffee maker. Like, she owns one of those like Mick Coffee, ones that like, their little mini pot is like my usual cup.
Yeah.
So we got in yesterday and I didn't feel like going back to the store. She had a little bit left, a little bit of coffee left from the last trip here. And so it was enough for one pot. And so I was like, that's fine. That'll do. Even though it's like, a mini pot and it says 5 cups, you're like, that's a cup and a half maybe for a normal person. So I went on my run this morning. I was like, I'll just run by the Kroger. I'll grab some coffee and I'll run home with it. So I head out this morning on my run, a little bit later than usual. And I passed 4 different people and one couple. Mm-hmm. And you know me, I'm the good morning guy.
Yeah.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. You know how many responses I got?
0.
And then this older couple, I was like a half mile from the house. I'm running on the sidewalk. And then they got bike lanes on some of the streets. So I hopped over the bike lane, didn't want to get too shoulder to shoulder with them.
Right.
Look over to make it because I'm all about the eye contact. Good morning. It helps me, but hopefully it helps the person. Stared right at the ground. Didn't even look at me as I said, good morning. Nothing. And I think they actually like shifted to the right a little to even be further away from me. And at this point, I wasn't even carrying coffee. I didn't look like some coffee thief. I was just like a regular dude on a run. And I'm like, I don't get it. So public service announcement, when you're out for a run, say hi to people, say good morning. Like it not only on one of the very, very, very first podcasts we ever did, we talked to in one of the very few interviews we ever did. One was with Steve Magnus, and he talked a lot about, doing things for others makes you perform better. And while saying good morning isn't doing something for you or for someone else, it kind of is, because you're showing interest in it. It's just like when they say when you race better when you thank a volunteer. And so I find this very, very, very similar. And this and you get nothing in return. And so I'm going to keep saying it because me, I'm not the most chatty guy, but when I go run, like I'm trying to be happy. I'm trying to be energized. I'm trying to start my day off like really great. If you're out there and you're running, set a good example, say good morning, say good evening, say good afternoon. Hey, how you doing? Whatever it is. Nice. Good job. Dish out the love, dish out the positive attitude, because I'm telling you, it's declining in general in human population. Like, so I don't know what the deal is, but unless you're coming up behind somebody and you yell out on your left, because that's your big pet peeve, is say good morning, look people in the eye, show people that, I passed 2 people and they were just staring at their phones the whole entire time. I'm like, good morning. They're walking to Vanderbilt, probably about to, save lives and, do whatever. I'm like, hey, good morning. Nada, zilch. And I'm like, you know what? That's fine. I did my part. But again, to everyone that's listening, and to especially our athletes, if you're rocking C26 gear and you're out there, you better be saying good morning, good afternoon. Hey, how are you? Spread the love, people. Spread the love.
Are people just unhappy, man?
I don't know.
I mean, there's a big swath, I think.
I feel like I don't look scary either. Yeah. It's like I'm like, running around with like a long trench coat with the whole goth look.
Yeah, but were you hammering a downhill or something? Because I've seen
in fact, I was struggling on an uphill for 2 of them.
Yeah, well.
So I don't know if I was like, over panting, but I mean, I'm telling you, it was, I feel happy when I run because I'm disconnected. I don't take my phone. I'm just like, hey, good morning.
Here comes one of those runners. Here comes one of those runners, babe.
That's right. Those runners. There they go, messing up their knees for life. What my doctor said, he said, running's bad for your knees. So that guy's out here just being just totally disregarding the whole medical profession, by rooting in his knees. I'm like, all right, people, whatever.
There's no question, man. You can just tell. I know. I think it's just that interactive piece that we want, sort of that, like, I was talking about how energy goes back and forth between people. And I really believe that. I feel like, some days I wake up and nobody's around. I, pet my Maddie, and then I'll, get out of my office, and I'm kind of a little bit, groggy-ish or not quite there. But the minute somebody like pulls me into a conversation, I'm a different person. It just sort of brings your whole. It's like you're awake now, and you're supposed to be dealing with people and interacting. So I think that matters. But yeah, I came home. I actually was working last night. I came out and there was about 6 inches of snow in my car. And I came home last night and shoveled. And I actually love shoveling. I don't. It's just such a primal activity or something, and got out there and nailed it, knocked it out. I woke up this morning. I got a little sore pivot foot.
Whoa, time out. A sore like a sore pivot foot?
Yeah,
Is that your left?
In my left foot, yeah. I mean, well, they both can be a pivot foot, but my left is a little sore.
Primarily your left, right? Because you're gonna pass and shoot with your right, so it's usually the left, right?
I don't know. It's just something about how I shovel that pivot foot. Kind of. It's almost got like a what do you call that, hot spot or something? But it's a little sore.
Oh, I know that spot.
But I'm gonna plow through it like the rest of the snow plowers. So. No, I was kidding. I actually was like, it is sore, but it's not going to bring me down, man. How much does that happen in triathlon training? Little sores, little sore parts of your body.
We're getting old.
Yeah, but I mean, I just think it's all part of it, really. And I never knew that really until I started running in my late 40s, and I was like, damn, I felt like a mess all the time. But once you get going, and this is another thing I read in Training Peaks a gazillion times a week, is like, man, I just wasn't feeling it in the beginning. But once I got into it, about 30 minutes, I felt great. It's like if I was telling somebody, if I had like a pill that would wipe that memory from my brain and make me realize that that's kind of how it is a lot of times, then I think I'd be a lot better off. Because, man, when you start sometimes, even deep into training session or summers or something, when you're getting close to race shape, sometimes those early moments can be a little deflating. You're like, damn, what is going on here? There's so many variables, but I just think what you've talked about it before. I think where it's that deep fatigue, and it takes a little longer for your muscles to get warmed up and moving the blood and stuff. But
as Kobe used to say, you got to get out there early and get in a good lather.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you get the sweat, you get the body moving, you get the blood flowing, and that's 100. That's training, right? And that's kind of the topic I wanted to go in today. And we've talked about before links in a chain and how every session should connect. And this is that time of year where, again, as we get closer to the race season, and your workouts kind of go from traditional, foundational / maintenance mode. They might be specific, but they're general enough to where you're more than likely not going to be pushing the limits of volume and intensity, either or them combined together. And you're not, obviously you don't want to ever take risks, but you're not really moving the needle at an aggressive pace, right? You're not trying to see giant leaps in fitness, which you shouldn't be doing that year on anyway. But especially for the self-coached athlete or for those working off training plans, sometimes it's difficult to not do that, because you might have especially for like run training plans, they'll have you doing a 10-miler one week and then 12 miles the next week and then 14. Well, if you skip the 12-miler and you miss it and you feel like crap on the 10, now you're like, well, now I got to do 14, right? That's 4 more miles. Even if you're running 8-minute pace, that's 32 extra minutes. And so we're getting into that time of year where people are starting to get in shape. The sun's coming out. We had a bunch of athletes, where there was a sporadic warm front that went through a lot of the country. People are getting outside and hammering it and doing things. And, people get sick year round, but you got allergies and people feeling down. They go out and hammer and then they get shelled. And I think it's a great time of year to do kind of our annual reminder of not so much stress as stress, but the point of each session is not just the session, but it's how it affects the next. And then the one that you're doing is kind of pushed forward and the momentum was created from the previous day. So every time, whether you're a coached athlete, self-coached athlete, working off a training plan, I always encourage athletes, when you don't look at a week, look at a 3-day block. And I don't mean 3-day block as in, this is my microcycle and I'm going to build another one. It terms them, for example, Wednesday, look at your Wednesday workout, and that might be a quality session. Then look at the day before. Is it complementary? Is it suggesting, do you take this easy so we can do well on Wednesday? And is Wednesday the appropriate level of intensity so that the next day you can recover, right? And then how does that session, go? And so a lot of athletes get so swept up on beating the day or winning the day or setting a new PR, going out and smashing themselves. And I commented on this for an athlete on Wednesday morning. They're coming off a week and a half of being shelled, of sick, like just sick, straight up sick. I go out and I give them aerobic rides all week because this athlete generally always overhammers it. So there's no point in putting in intensity because they're going to do intensity, period. So I, layer in there, hey, this is just an aerobic ride. We're going to keep things easy. You're coming back from being sick. What do? Absolutely destroy themselves on Tuesday.
You got to get that sickness out, man.
Right. That's not, but when you're over the sickness, that's not really the point. Like you're out of the hole and all you did was kind of like, twirl yourself around and fall right back in. And I was like, dude, this is not the time to hammer yourself. This is the time to slowly creep in. They're like, yeah, I know. I get kind of emotional when I get on my bike. And I'm like, that's fine. But what also happens, and we touched on this earlier this week, is think about what happens to you emotionally when you don't work out, right? Yeah. When you can't, because you're sick or you're injured or you're burnt out or you can't sleep. All these things connect. And some athletes do a tremendous job of self-regulating their stress, right? And you talk about it a lot about, sessions are supposed to give you energy, not take it away. Now, that's not every workout, but that should be generally like 80% of the sessions you do should give you energy. And even if they don't give you, a ton of energy, what they should do is enable you to have more energy the next day. An active recovery ride, a zone 2 ride, an A1 ride, whatever you want to call it, might not feel super energetic, right? You might not get your juices flowing. It might not be fancy enough. But what the point of it is to allow you to recuperate and recover while still getting a fitness benefit from the previous day, so that when you wake up the next day, you can attack the session that's maybe not supposed to give you energy, but to gain fitness, and you have that in you. But most athletes, they do things opposite. So you might have for example, you might have a Tuesday easy ride before a Wednesday hard ride. Well, athletes, for the most part, especially if they're self-coached, they don't really see how things, connect together and the purpose of things, or they kind of throw their plan together on their own. They just want to hammer it out. They'll go really, 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 really hard, or over and beyond, right? A zone 2 and more gray zone, and really kind of depleting themselves in their easy ride. And then wake up the next day and they have to work so hard just to meet the bottom part of the limit. And then if you look at the quote unquote stress score, right? They might have they'll probably be less on the stress score because they weren't able to go above and beyond on the intensity day. But then the most important thing is look at day 3. They're done. They went over and beyond, because there's a difference and I've talked about this a ton, is why I absolutely despise the TSS score in Training Peaks. I find it absolutely worthless and useless. It's a useless metric because it all it does is quantify the session individually. It doesn't quantify or calculate. It doesn't say, hey, on Wednesday I rode hard, so here's my score of 80. It doesn't take into account, well, what if you ran earlier in the day? What if you swam earlier in the day? What if you did it with carbohydrate restriction? What if you rode long the previous day? What if you did it in 100-degree heat? What if you did it in 30-degree cool weather? What if there's high humidity? What if it's not? What if it's hilly terrain? What if it's not? It doesn't take any of that into account. It's just it's a different method. So when you look at and a lot of athletes train by that, and it's a terrible way of managing your quote unquote CTL, ATL in your form, because it's all off. None of it's accurate, because the combined stress is cumulative in a way that can't be quantified in a number from a training stress. But how you look at your days and how they stack up and how you're able to perform, how you wake up and feel should tell you everything you need to know about how you did the day before and what you can do today. But most athletes are so concerned with just, ignoring their internal governor, right? Or they wake up and I've got an intensity session. I had an athlete just in very intelligent, very responsible, very self-aware athlete wake up the other day. Hey man, I know I had this interval session today, but to be honest, I'm just so stressed right now that I just cruised for a zone 2.
Hello.
Thank you. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to reach through, Training Peaks and give you a man hug. Like, thank you. You are the epitome of what all athletes should do, because what they did was they used fitness, right, to manage and dissipate stress. So he got a good physiological response. He got fitter, and as a giant bonus, decrease stress. The other athlete, athlete B, which this used to be me to a T, like before I got sober, is I would get on, and if I was stressed or feeling crappy or feeling shame or guilt or anxiety or depression or whatever it was, I would absolutely destroy myself. And so I wasn't actually, and if you think about it, there's a ton of, a lot of relationships between, I talk about a lot, about triathlon and AA and training and recovery. And it's that vicious cycle of, and from an alcoholic standpoint, is like, I used to go out and get absolutely, hammered most of the time at home, but also frequently outside of the house, and pass out and feel terrible. I'd feel guilty. I'd feel shame. I'd feel disappointed in myself. And what does that lead me to do? Drink, right? So it's like that vicious cycle. Same thing happens with training with athletes. As they get stressed, they got a stressful home life, stressful job, the world is stressful, whatever it is. So in order to combat that stress, what they think is, well, you know what I should do? Accumulate more stress. And then they wake up the next day unable and incapable of managing because they've created so much stress. You know what happens? When you do too much and you go too hard, just like after a race, like a 70.3 in Ironman, no one sleeps well. You created so much stress, it's almost impossible to have a good night's sleep. So you don't have a good night's sleep. What are you more likely to do? Eat like crap? What's that going to do? Make me not, train well. So then you follow this vicious cycle over and over and over again. But you can break the cycle just as easy as you started by just monitoring, understanding, and being self-aware of, am I creating stress or reducing it? And if I am creating stress, is it just enough, right? That minimal effective dose to where I'm not going to wake up tomorrow and feel destroyed.
Yeah, a lot of what you're talking about. I mean, what you're talking about with the drink and everything, this is a moderation approach to things. You were like one speed, either all on or all off or something. And a lot of people do that, I think, in general. I think of it as what's the best way to nourish your body today with the activity. And, sometimes it's just about, it's like take it when you got it. That's one of my things too, is sort of, if you got it, you can go for it a little bit. But I have that same tendency that you do, whereas you may have a few days off or whatever. And I think most athletes have this, or, they got sick for a week or whatever it is, or they've been slacking and they got to prove that they still got it. And I used to do that, a lot of times I do it on the run too, but on the bike. But I got better at, sometimes you get on there and you just can't resist just saying, all right, well, I want to see what I got. And then going after it hard. But what I got really good at was doing that and then backing off and be like, all right, I still got it, but I'm not going to kill myself. You know what I mean? Because I don't know why we tend to think that, a lot of people that maybe miss a week or two or something like that, they think they're back at square one already after they've been training for 4 months. It's like, I lost everything. It's gone.
Lost it all. It's gone.
I got to prove that I still got it. So you go out and do a ball buster workout, and then you're just shelled again. So there is something to be said for, I like to keep it in reality too. Everyone's not perfect at just taking it easy and recovering. And, it's an art. It's definitely a skill and a mental control that you have to have. But sometimes if you want to go, like run and just see if you still can hit that, whatever it is, your low minute pace for just a second. I think it helps sometimes, but don't keep doing it. Just settle back in. It's sort of like, I go out and shovel and I'm like, can I still unload this? Like where the plow comes, do I still got the strength to get the big pile out of the end of the driveway? And I went out this morning. I'm like, I still got it, but I didn't like blast my pivot foot. You know what I mean? I was trying to, I always call this thing train to heal too. And it's sort of like I was noticing the pain and I instinctively started balancing a little different to take some of the pain away or whatever. And I think that that's a good way to go about training. If you're kind of coming back, you talked about a lot about this analogy of a boiling pot, and simmering. And I really like to think of that as that getting a little lather is kind of just this simmer in life or simmer in your workout where you're getting you're not sweating like profusely, but you're just getting that little, your pores are starting to open up and you're just getting that. And a lot of times that's the perfect solution to what you should be doing on that day, and just kind of getting the blood flowing and kind of activating your system, and it allows your system to work better, and then you heal up better. But if you overtax it all the time or frequently, that it has a tough time catching up. But sometimes you get done with these, and that's the other thing with the zone 2 workout. A lot of people think that it's just kind of, we've talked about this too, but it's not just, zone 1 or whatever, if you just want to kind of spin the pedals, that's a good thing. But zone 2 can sometimes, it gets you going a little bit, and I think a lot of times people don't respect that upper end of zone 2 and what it feels like and how hard it can be, So there's no need to blast yourself all the time, but it is a good thing. It's also really good mental and physical connection training for obviously racing, right? So it's like that thing, you're not going to be just putting the hammer down all race day. You got to understand and be able to hit that spot in your zone and understand what that means and be able to keep it, So there's just so many benefits in resisting that urge to drive yourself into the ground. And I don't know what that is psychologically, but I think a lot of us have it.
Yeah, I think everyone has it, honestly. I mean, to an extent, I think some are just able to regulate it more than others. But we do, as a society and therefore as athletes, we have a moderation problem.
Oh, yeah.
We want to consume everything all the time. More is better, right? Working more is better. Sleeping less is better. Like, we're extreme to every degree, right? Harder and longer is better, right? And it all comes down to what do you really know and feel is satisfactory? Is this satisfactory or is this destruction, right? Or is this impeding my progress of future satisfaction? And it goes, people yo-yo back and forth, right? It feels satisfying to destroy myself today in this session, but tomorrow will it feel satisfactory? No. You'll be sore shit. You'll be able to produce. Therefore, preventing yourself from doing something that makes you feel satisfied, right? Because you went to the extreme, right? Same thing goes with, you see people who, really, really uber restrict their diet. And it might work really, really well and be very satisfactory for a few days until it's destructive because it's so extreme, you can no longer do it, right? So 3 or 4 days of massive calorie restriction. I'm giving up sugar. I'm giving up coffee. I'm giving up air. I'm giving up water. I'm down 6 pounds. Next thing you know, you're walking to the Papa John's pizza, and before you get home, you've crushed 4 large pizzas and 12 breadsticks. Not only did you just negate everything you just did, but now you're going to feel worse, right? So you went from what you thought was satisfactory to destruction, but what it actually was, it was a fool's errand because it wasn't satisfactory. It was slow destruction. And you see this with athletes all the time, and you can listen to and ask and read about multiple research papers and professional coaches that the trap with athletes is, and even with people, right, entrepreneurs and people who want to be very successful, is that you can burn the wick quick and for a very short period of time and see success, right? You can put in 50-hour weeks and get a little bit ahead. But then now what you've done is you've created an image and a life that's built around a 50-hour week of success. But guess what? It's not sustainable, right? Same thing goes with athletes who self-coach and they're like, yeah, I'm going to do high intensity all the time. And they will 100% see results in 2 to 3 months. They'll be faster. But long-term, what they've done to their body by doing only high-intense stuff and not doing enough low-intensity stuff is they've actually taken a future step, not just one step backwards, but multiple steps backwards. So they'll see the fitness creep up and they're taking their 2 to 3 steps forward, right? But as they continue on their journey, what happens is the next one is when they want to take a step forward, they got to take 5 steps backwards first to basically take apart their engine and become a different type of athlete that's sustainable, that's more efficient, right? It's only, and that's just a question for all athletes, and we have to ask them, frequently as coaches is this sustainable? Yeah, I know you want to do this right now, but is it good long term? Can you do it next week, right? And most people say no. And so what's the point of doing it this week if you can't do it next? Because all it's going to do is actually lessen the likelihood of you doing it next. And so I always ask athletes, and I think it's a great question for us to ask ourselves, And is what I'm doing sustainable, or is it a fool's errand? And instead of it being actually satisfactory, just like, moderation, am I full? Am I eating slow enough to where I know I'm going to be full, or am I eating so fast that I'm going to consume way more than I should, and then I'm going to feel full and stuff and gross, and then I sleep like crap, and then the vicious cycle returns, right? Or am I taking the moderate approach that isn't flashy? It's not super fun, but it's great for you, and it allows you to do these over and over. And one of the best parts is when you sleep better, when you train better, when you feel better, you are more likely to make better decisions, right?
Yeah.
And better choices. And that just goes, it snowballs. It creates momentum. So always ask yourself, is what you think satisfactory or good enough right now really just low level destruction that is just appeasing your ego, or your inability to regulate your own stress, or your denial of how stressed you are, right? A lot of people, that's their life, right? They're in total denial of the level of stress, because no one wants to admit that life is hard, and that parenting is hard, and being in a relationship is hard, and just like, guess what? Life's pretty fucking hard. It's just fact of the matter. It's very, 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 very hard. So admitting that actually just gives you more opportunities to do better with your training, because then you can say, yeah, I'm a super stress day. This is an easy run. I'm going to benefit. I want to do something good for myself instead of destroying myself, right? Be a prisoner of the moment. And then the next day you can't work out, and then you feel worse, right? Because you're, in my opinion, you're either creating momentum or slowing it down. And every athlete knows this. I know this, you know this, that if you don't train for one day, it's easier to not train for 2 days. If you don't train for 2 days, guess what? It's a lot easier to not train for 3 than it is to start back at 1. And the longer you go, the starting back is harder after 2 weeks than it is after 2 days. Even when you should be more motivated, you should be more driven, because you aren't working out. But guess what? You haven't been able to mitigate and manage stress. You're probably not sleeping good. You feel worse about yourself. So all these kind of, demons and devils on your shoulder are peeping or popping up and talking to you like, yeah, you don't need you can't do it. You feel too tired. You're feeling down. It's hard to make that decision to just get your fucking shoes on and get out the door. So get back out there and do it, and then make a decision that's complimentary of yourself and your fitness level and the training that you want to do, not just tomorrow, but 3 months from now. And it's such a, I thought about that, and how grateful you'll be that I thought about this on my run this morning. Actually, I was like, how grateful I am to be able to go out on a 4-mile easy run, stop by the grocery store, grab coffee and some protein powder, and run home. Right. When everyone else is driving, of course, they live far away, but it's just how how grateful I am to be able to use my own body to travel. Right? Whether it's traveling or swimming or cycling or running or rowing, whatever your thing is how grateful and how cool it is to be able to use our body for travel, to move places, to go distances, to push ourselves at higher intensities, right? To do things that you see most people, they just can't. We all know people that first of all, they can, but they won't. And we can. So now we have the ability to do things that other people can't do. And so think about that. Fall back on that. On the days where you want to drive hard, it's like, hey, is this going to inhibit and prevent me from being able to express fitness and be less stressed the next day, or am I actually adding stress to what I'm doing around? You said it, like, I think it's a great idea, and it's such a great point that you made. Just touching on it, right? Strike that match if you need to, or if you need the confidence boost to know that the flame is there. Strike the match, but don't light it and let it burn down. And that's what people do, is they light it, they let it burn down, and they want to know why, and then it burns their fingertips, and they're done. And they wonder why they have no match to light tomorrow.
Yeah, I was thinking about like those little decisions we make during the day, or that kind of translate into workouts, and like how you're saying it's. If you're not getting the rest, you're not eating right, you're not doing the right things, your decisions become harder, at least more convoluted, right? And you're kind of like, I'll just do this or whatever, and you're not clear on it or whatever. And one of those things that I think about a lot is how much like crap I eat, just without thinking about it. And then, whether they're chips or, whatever. I don't want to get in and like, cause I know that I don't want to be all on that road either, but I just feel like the more I do that without really needing it, and it's just kind of like mouth food versus what your body needs, and you're just kind of satiating yourself for the moment, I guess. And so last weekend I was up when my mom had her birthday party up at the cottage, and this guy walks in with a big cowboy hat on, Cowboy Steve, I believe his name. He had like 5 dozen eggs. You know, he's got a farm. And he gave us, he goes, yep, these eggs, we got them last week. They're like a day old or whatever. I was like, oh shit. So I started talking to him about that. And we were talking about eggs and why the price went up, and he's not really sure or whatever. But he did say, you know, those eggs in the store, they're at least 60 days old. I was like, holy shit.
Oh, jeez.
He goes, they freeze. He goes, well, what the thing is when a chicken lays an egg, they lay it with like an oil on it.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, I rarely refrigerate my eggs, but everybody thinks that, you know, that's what we should do. But the reason they do that is because they wash them, and the minute they're washed, they have to be in cold storage. So then it takes time to get to, you know, the stores and all that, and who knows where the hell they come from or whatever. But he gave us these eggs, and I started thinking about it. I was like, why in the hell? You know, that's one of the reasons I like, one of the hidden reasons where I moved up here. I was kind of thinking about this idea of getting more local, and this is such a big farm area and everything like that. So I wanted to connect with that. Anyway, I took a couple dozen eggs home, and this experiment is still in the mix, but I've had both 2 meals a day with those eggs. And I swear to God, after 2 days, I started noticing something. I couldn't pinpoint it. But, you know, it's like weird, right? I kind of do these things. But it's been 5 days now that I've had his eggs. And I haven't eaten as much crap on the side. I don't know what. I haven't really tried either. But anyway, I just think there's something there about, you know, nutrition and finding good stuff, and then being able to eliminate some of those impulsive habits that kind of spill their way into training. And I think, you know, when we have empty tanks all the time, that's when we start thinking we need to prove something, because our confidence level does go down. But if you feel nourished and well rested, you feel confident about, you know, you don't have to go out and say, I need to go run this today. I know I'm not racing for 3 months, but I got to go prove that I can go run the race right now or whatever. You know, if you know you have it in you, why would you do it today? You know what I mean? It's like, what part of the progression do you not believe in here? And I think that's one thing we do, is we just get so ahead of ourselves with decision making. It's sort of like, you know, I've talked about it before. Like if you're preparing a presentation that you have to give a speech or something like that, and you're not ready for it yet, don't think you're not going to be ready. You just have to keep doing the things to get ready. You've got time, you know? So those are the little decision making flaws that I think a lot of us have. And I don't have energy, so I need to go eat a bunch of sugar right now. And that's one of those things, that sugar one that's got me. I'm not trying to say give it up or whatever. I'm just saying keep an eye on it, because I wonder sometimes if that isn't one of my biggest problems, is that I'm jolting my system up and down so much that it's like in and out of fog or whatever the hell it is, and then it kind of translates into sleeping. So I know that was kind of a sidebar, but I think it all kind of comes together. You know, you talk about being not confident in yourself, and I think a lot of that stems from the sleep and the not eating well and not being, you know, calm. And if you're putting a lot of these things, like, you know, the thing about chips, I always think, we got a company here in town who makes the like the synthetic like spices and shit like that goes, you know, it makes this chip taste like a banana or whatever. You know what I mean? Right. I'm like, how can that be good? I don't think your body even knows what the hell it's trying to get rid of, you know? Yeah. So those little things like that might even not stick out. You might eat like 5 of those chips, and then all of a sudden you got chemicals in your body that your body has never heard of or seen or dealt with before. Then how's that going to affect your body or your brain? I'm just really interested in that kind of thing. So I think there's something to be said about that. And I'm always better if I'm sleeping better, and I don't have to get up and kind of get into that mode right away where I'm like, oh, I need a little juice here, you know? Mm-hmm. So
I want to thank Cowboy Steve
Yeah.
for bringing those eggs, because I think that was one of your better analogies of all time. And it brings me to this point, and we can make it our final point for today. But what you touched on, the analogy you gave, is the perfect segue to talking about why extremes are so hard, right? People that live an extreme lifestyle, people that go on extreme diets, people that give themselves too much volume in training or too much intensity, whether you admit it or not, that, and you see how this is the only way for me to be to be successful is to work 60 hours a week and to sleep 5, or the only way for me to be successful is to work out 5 hard rides a week and 5 hard runs and just to go after it and beat yesterday every day, or to do 20 hours a week. And you set these extremes. With every extreme becomes pressure, because I think deep down that in order to reach even a remote level of success, you have to commit to being extreme. Going too hard, going too long, doing it too often, sleeping less. Same thing with diet. I got to be perfect in my diet to be successful. That eats away at you. Even if it's subconsciously, it eats away at you.
Mm-hmm.
And the pressure that you put on yourself to be successful and to meet these standards and to meet these expectations that you put upon yourself slowly erode your ability to keep up the level, because it's not sustainable. Versus the moderation, the well laid out plan. I can run 30 minutes today. Easy. You look at the plan and all you see is opportunity, and all you see is the opportunity to be successful. In that it might seem easy, but that's kind of the point. Because then it actually gives you confidence that you can do it. Not, oh my God, I hope I can get this in again this week. I'm so tired, or I'm so hungry, or my legs are so sore. I don't know how I'm going to do this. What? That doesn't make zero sense to me. Zero. But you look at a well-laid plan, you're like, I can definitely do that. You hear it in their voice. That's confidence. And if they can do it this week, they can do it the next week. And they can do it the next week. And they can do it the next week. That's how you become successful, is to making things sustainable and creating opportunities and creating, appropriate level challenges. And that's why I always find like these certain challenges people do that last like a day or two, it never translates to real life, because none of it's sustainable. None of it. Anybody can suffer for 24 hours or 48 or 72 or a week, or, all the people that I know that have done 100 days of running have like quit running for months afterwards because they get so burnt out on it. Like, choose something that's sustainable. Choose a diet that's sustainable. Hey, I can't have sugar. I can't have this. Or how about just limiting a little bit? And then, when you want to have some, have some. I can do that. Okay. Yeah. It sounds not, it shouldn't. Here's the thing. And here's, again, going back to what we said at the beginning about society's obsession now with everything has to be hard and everything has to be extreme and destructive, is that people look at things that looks attainable and that looks easy. Oh, that's not challenging enough. Let me make it harder. Let me make it more intense. Let me restrict more calories. Let me sleep less and do this. Eventually, it all catches up to you. A 50-hour work weeks, guess what? You might be working 50, quote unquote, but I guarantee you're not doing good work. So the question you should always ask yourself, and especially for when you're training, is, am I doing enough, or am I doing too much, or am I doing more than enough? And that is the obsessive, lacking of confidence, ego massaging place that especially athletes, type A athletes, endurance athletes put themselves in when you scroll through Strava or these closed Facebook groups for races. Am I doing enough, or I think I should do more? Think about yourself. Think about what's sustainable. Think about what's healthy, right? From just a health standpoint, oftentimes I try to make a point to comment like this in Training Peaks where, man, it's so great to not see you getting so fit, but think about the impact that's having on your overall health. Your ability to be on this planet longer. Your ability to be around those that you love longer. Increasing the ability to be around your kids longer. To be able to make an impact on this planet longer. Those are things we rarely ever think about. but that the things that we do and how we train and how we treat ourselves and how we talk to ourselves and the food we put in our body and the amount of sleep we get, all this impacts it. And so when you're training and you're creating that, it's like you should 90% of the time think, I got healthier today, right? Not just I got fitter. Right? We're obsessed with faster and then what it takes to be faster and to go faster. It's like, I think I got healthier today, because increased fitness makes you healthier, right? But destroying yourself day in and day out and day in and day out, it does not make you healthier. It's destroying your body. It's eating away at your muscle mass. You're not recovering enough, right? You're not sleeping enough. Your cortisol levels are through the roof. You're creating inflammation, and you're not doing anything to combat or dissipate it. You're destroying yourself. So while you might think in the short term you might be getting faster, even though you're not, you're just doing what you think needs to be done, you're hurting your overall health. So always go back to that question. Am I hurting my health today? Right. And that's like that scare thing. I'm just saying that, man, like when I got back from a run today, I was like, I got coffee, went to the grocery store, came back. I got healthier today. And that's awesome. And you know what? It fucking feels good too. Right. And so what I'm more likely to do tomorrow? Be healthy and be fitter again, versus destroying yourself in that cycle over and over again. So I think it's again, every month of the year, it's a great reminder for everyone to have about how you approach training and how you look at your days stacked against each other and the complementary nature of how they should be, right? And if it doesn't, then question it. Is that really good for my health? Is that really good for my, ability to be in the sport for a long period of time? Am I driving myself in the ground? If you don't know better, then ask somebody or read or listen to a podcast or reach out to somebody. Figure out, are you doing damage or doing good? And it should be. Are you willing to be really, really, really successful for the next few years, or be kind of good in 6 weeks, but then drive yourself in the ground? Yeah. And then wonder why you can't be, and then probably get hurt, and then wonder why you're the person who never performs on race day. So they're tough questions to ask, especially when society is telling us the opposite, but just think about it and think about yourself and your fitness and your health, and always put that first in all of your decisions. And I guarantee you, you won't just be healthier and happier, but you'll be fitter as well.
I love that, man. Get healthier today. That's and I think there's one thing that, as I get older and everything, that could, you see older people kind of fading fast. I see a lot of people that are sort of in my age group kind of fading, and, you can see them going downhill. But a lot of times getting healthier is almost just kind of staying on the same plane. I mean, if you can hold up, that's the other thing you got to remember is that, I have to check myself a lot about, I'd love to get a lot faster, but I have to remember that if I can kind of just stay as fast as I was, that's a win, Then
you're getting faster.
Yep. Right. Yeah. You're getting faster. Yeah. Cause you got more obstacles to face, and there's something to it. That's another kind of reinforcement about not going too hard, man. Just stay where you're at. If you can, race 10 years later and hit the same time or whatever, that's getting faster, especially as you get older.
Especially, yeah, because it's not about how fast you're, it's how little you're slowing down.
Bingo. All right. Wrap it up, buddy.
That's a wrap. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Go out this weekend and do something to make yourself healthier, and that will alone make yourself happier. As always, go to our website, c26triathlon.com. It is our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. If you're looking for coaching the rest of the year, or just for, a group of coaches or an individual to help make you happier and healthy this year and guide you on your journey, click on the coaching tab and find the coach that's right for you. If you need anything from Mike, he's available, CrushingIron@gmail.com. Or if you need anything from me specifically, c26coach@gmail.com.
Yeah, and I'm hearing rumors we might have swim caps in next week.
Ooh.
C26 swim caps re-backed in stock.
Yeah.
So keep an eye on our store out there.
I love it.
I'll let you know.
Yeah, please do.
I mean, not you.
Just kidding. I got one. I got mine. I'm good. I only need one.
Okay, buddy. It's been a pleasure.
All right, man. I'll see you later.
All right. See you.